Hi guys, nandito tayo ngayon sa Dulin Seaport. Sakay tayo ng ferry, pupunta natin yung ibang side naman na Cliffs of Moher. So tingnan natin yung Cliffs of Moher by boat. So sasakay tayo ng ferry na yun. So let's go. Sasakay na tayo dyan sa ferry na yun. So yan, tara. Yung nasa ibabaw tayo. Nakikita na natin ngayon ng Cliffs of Moher na nandito naman tayo sa baba. Nandito naman tayo sa dagat. Kasama ko nga pala si Maria po. Ayan, nakangiti. So nandun pa banda ang Cliffs of Moher. So lapit-lapitan natin yan mamaya. So maklaro natin klaro siya sa camera kasi medyo malapit na ngayon, hindi pa dahil malayo pa tayo, bago pa lang tayo umalis sa Dulin Port, umpisa ng Cliffs of Moher. So malapit na tayo sa tower doon sa taas ng Cliffs of Moher. Ayun na banda. Maya nandun na tayo. Antayin lang natin guys. Tanaw ko na dito yung tower. So kung naalala nyo nung pumunta tayo doon sa ibabaw, pumunta kayo doon sa tower.
At the most southern point on the cliffs. To our right is Hag's Head. The reason this is called Hag's Head is because if you look to the top, to the right of the tower, you will see the side view or a silhouette of an old hag's head. You can see the round head, nose, the mouth, the lips, the wrinkly old neck in the formation of the stone. The archway here is a formation from the sea through sea erosion. As waves crash against the cliff, it carves out this archway, and eventually the archway will collapse. That will leave a sea stack or a tall pillar of rock standing on its own. Later in the tour, we will point out the sea stack to you in a different part of the cliff. The tower here was built in 1813 by the British. During the British occupation of the island of Ireland, the British were afraid that Napoleon or the Spanish were going to invade the island of Ireland and then subsequently invade Britain. So they built a series of these towers all around our coast. There are 54 of them in total. They run all the way from Dublin as far south as County Cork and as far north as County Donegal. Each one of these towers can see one to the north and one to the south. They're all linked by the line of sight. They were not defensive towers, there was no cannon based on them, but there was a garrison in the towers, and their job was, if an invading fleet was coming up from the south of Ireland, or the first tower to see this invading fleet, they would light a fire on top, and each other tower had a lookout, and as they would see the fire, they would subsequently light a fire themselves, and so on and so forth, with a chain reaction all the way up along the coast, which would give some time to the armies in the north to get ready for an invasion. But this never actually happened, as neither Napoleon or the Spanish ever invaded the island of Ireland, and the British left here in 1922 with his legenda. Let's go right back to the very beginning of how these cliffs were actually formed. Millions of years ago, there was an ancient river that ran down through northern Europe, and it exited into the Atlantic Ocean at this point. As sand, sediment, and silt and mud was carried down the river, it all got deposited on one side of the riverbank. Then, over millions of years, through atmospheric pressure, all this debris got compacted into the rock that you see before you. But this rock was actually going much further up, going out towards the Aran Islands, which are now on our left-hand side. And over a very long period of time, the main creator of these cliffs has been the wild Atlantic Ocean, crashing against the base of the cliff, wearing away at its base, which then in turn makes the top unstable and it falls into the water. The cliff faces along the Cliffs of Moher are in a very unusual formation. Not only are they vertical, but they also run in zigzag formation if you were to look at them from an aerial photograph. We have been told by local geologists that the reason for this is because the Burren region north of the county runs underneath the cliffs. The Burren is made up of limestone, and the limestone runs underneath all this debris and sandstone and mudstone. As the cliffs break away, they break away in accordance with very strange lines that run through the Burren. These grikes, or deep gashes in the rock, run in straight lines through the Burren region, and they run from a southeast to a northwest direction. As we move along to this section of the cliffs, you will begin to see some people possibly walking along the top. Up to 1.5 million people visit these cliffs on an annual basis, making them Ireland's second most popular tourist attraction, after the Guinness Storehouse in Dublin. During the nesting season here at the Cliffs of Moher, which is from the middle of April up to the middle of July, over 40,000 birds are nesting, making it one of Ireland's largest seabird colonies. The largest family of birds that nest here are the hawks family, and they consist of the guillemot, the razorbill, and the puffin. So we'll start with the puffin. The puffin is the most popular bird and the one we get most asked about. Puffins have multicolored beaks. They are black and white in color, and they also have orange flippers. They come here to nest, but they don't actually nest. They burrow into the grassy areas along the cliff, and they mate in a pair. Their direct cousins, the guillemot and the razorbill, look very similar. The razorbill is jet black on top with a white underbelly and has a white stripe running along a flat beak, a flat black beak. The guillemot is a bit lighter and grey in colour with a white underbelly and a long pointed beak. You should be able to see some of them in the water all around the boat. The crew will point out these birds from time to time during the voyage. They're quite amazing birds. The guillemot and the razorbill actually don't build any nest. They lay their egg directly onto the edge of the cliff, onto the cliff a way that it cannot roll off the edge if one of the pair leave. If the egg was to fall over, it actually rolls in a centric circle rather than from left to right, and this is a safeguard mechanism because there's no nest to hold the egg inside. As we get a bit closer to the center or the highest point of the cliffs, if you look to your right, you should be able to see a large cave. This cave on our right, who could point it out to you now, featured in Harry Potter, the Half-Blood Prince, which was the second last Harry Potter film to be filmed in the series. Another very famous film that was filmed here was the 1987 classic, The Princess Bride. In this particular film, these cliffs were the cliffs of insanity, with Wesley and Buttercup and hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, and after that, if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's a classic. It went straight to home video, 1987. At around this section, you can see a round tower. This tower was built in 1813 by Cornelius Woodward, who was a local landlord in Elgin, and his death in 1857. He built the tower for the many Victorian tourists who used to come and take in the magnificent views from the tower. You see, from the top of the Kerry, you can see a scarf with our county of Kerry, as far west as the Aran Islands, and as far north as County Cork.
That's the good.
The sea stack coming up on our right hand side. They listened to what the local people were saying in our Gaelic dialect, and they phonetically wrote down what people were saying. So I'll just give you an example of some of the local towns and what they mean. We have a town very close to us here called Lisdoonvarna. And Lisdoonvarna translates into the gap between the two forts or the two settlements. Lis is Gaelic for fort, and Doon is fort also. Varna is gap. So Lisdoonvarna. And in Lisdoonvarna, if you've been there's a deep ravine running right through the middle of the whole town. So at some stage there were two settlements on either side of the ravine. That's where it gets its name. The village of Doolin translates into black pool, Dublin, black and cool. And this is to do with all the turbulence that's in the water from deep Atlantic swells down at the harbour. So folks, we're just going to start making our way back to the harbour now. If anyone has any questions at all, the crew will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed our adventure beneath the cliffs.
Yeah, that's the Cliffs of Moher. So, going back na yung boat. Going back na. So, Dolin Port. See you.